a dating app a few years ago, which thankfully is going very well, and we're now approaching 100,000 users and generating revenue. But it wasn't always the case that it was going so well. I think when I first started working as an entrepreneur, I really sort of, I had a lot to learn. Having been a lawyer and worked in law for a long time, there was a lot of things that I needed to improve on. For instance, how do you raise investments? As a lawyer, I've been used to being the smartest person in the room, but I wasn't the best at raising investments. I struggled with the fear of failure. Who do you talk to when you have these sort of issues? And also the lack of community as a sort of first-time founder. I thought I would solve this by attending some events in London, but I really struggled to find good ones. So what I did in typical entrepreneurial spirit, I decided, sod it, I would build my own. So then, henceforth, the Entrepreneurs Collective was born. And our main aim is, frankly, to help each other to succeed. And we do this by hosting events such as this, where we get inspirational speakers in to learn from those who have succeeded before us, and also by bringing together some of the best founders in London, as well as connecting them with some of the best investors as well. Our overall aim is to help each other to succeed, because I believe that founders together, working with other founders, will only help improve our chances of growing great companies. In terms of what we're doing tonight, well, as you know, we're very lucky to be joined by Michael Tobin OBE, who we will be having a fireside chat with. And this is will be certainly a scintillating and frank discussion. Having interviewed Michael previously, we were very sort of privileged to hear from him last year as well. So I'm excited to have an update on what he's been up to. So I will kick off with some interviews, questions from myself and from some of our members that have been put to us. We will then open it up to the audience. There are plenty founders in the room this evening who I'm sure would love to ask some questions of Michael. So I would ask you all, as we are going through, have a little think and come prepared with some questions for the second half of the interview, where we'll open it to the floor. After that, and this is something that we've trialed at previous events, there will be the opportunity to do some networking in Zoom rooms. So we'll split the audience into, or whoever wants to network at the end, into groups of 8 or 10. And we will then break out into Zoom rooms, where you will get the opportunity to have a chat with each other and find out what the other founders and investors are up to on this call. But without further ado, I would like to introduce Michael Tobin. Former Telecity CEO, built the company from a 6 million turnover to 2.6 billion. He was honored by the Queen with an OBE for the services to the digital economy. He's also a founder of Tobin Ventures, investing and in particular in the telecoms and tech sector. And on top of that, not busy enough, he's also an active supporter of many charities, including some feats such as raising over £100,000 for the Princess Trust when he ran 40 marathons in over 40 days. It's my pleasure to welcome you, Michael. Let me just get rid of this shared screen so that we can see each other. Right. Okay. Michael, we've heard some of your accolades here, but I would love you to say hi to our viewers and just tell them a little bit in your own words, a bit of your story and what really got you into the world of business.
Oh gosh, yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks again, Michael, for having me back. I thought I'd blown my chances of ever coming back. That we chatted. So yeah, I mean, I'm born in the East End of London. Very rough childhood. Dad was in prison when I was born. It was in prison quite a lot, actually. Just happened to be when I was born as well. Very violent. Moved out to Africa to escape him. Got petrol bomb shot at. Came back to the UK as a refugee, effectively, at the age of around 12, and then did an apprenticeship in electronics engineering. Didn't go to university. Didn't even do A-levels, and then just kept trying to go for jobs that I knew I couldn't really do, until I found someone silly enough to employ me. And the one, obviously, that was silly enough, after having traveled around Europe on various businesses, including 11 years in France, 3 years in Copenhagen, 3 years in Frankfurt. The one that did employ me easily, I should have done my due diligence on, which was a data center company called Redbus, back in 2002. And it wasn't even 6 million revenue. It was 0 revenue, and it was 6 million market cap, listed on the London Stock Exchange.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and the only reason it had a market cap of 6 million was that it had 6 million in the bank. But it was burning 2.6 million a month. So you could see how many paydays you had.
So it was in negative, right? Okay. 0
revenue, basically. And so we took it private, consolidated the industry, and relisted it in 07, and for around 400 million. And then we sold it in January 15 for 2.6 billion. Yeah. So wow. It was a journey. And now I have a number of investments all around sort of private equity world mainly, and also my own investments, where I come in and advise private equity, generally technology, some data centers, some managed services, some other funky stuff. I chair Audio Boom, which is Europe's largest podcast platform, and listed on the London Stock Exchange. I also chair Big Blue Broadband, which is high-speed broadband via satellite to remote parts of the world. And also chair a very, very funky and wonderful business in Bristol called Ultraleap, which creates the sensation of touch in midair using ultrasonic signals, and lots of other things. So
wow, okay, that's some journey, Michael. Very impressive. How did you always have this? Because you're clearly a very driven individual, and with multiple hats, and was there a point when you realized that you wanted to be, I guess, a successful entrepreneur, and or was this something that was always in you from the start? When you said you left with you didn't do A levels, or and you sort of at that point were you right? Okay, I'm going to make it as a businessman. This is what I want to do, or were you I just want to get a job, or what was the point where it sort of changed from just wanting to I guess to make some money and move to this vision of, I guess, wanting to be a sort of leader and entrepreneur in your field?
I guess so from when I was young, that my brothers and I all kind of rebelled a little bit against what my father was, right? So the eldest became a policeman, fireman, and then I was, I didn't do either of those, but I wanted to go out and make money, create value. So as a young kid, I was working 2 paper rounds. I was building the indoor market in the town where I lived, and I was carrying bags of spuds and filling up the sort of the fruit and veg stalls, and then that was before school, and then after school I'd go and take it all down again, and I'd be working in a roller skating rink, because I could, for some freak of nature, roller skate backwards faster than some people could roller skate forward, so I could monitor them and slow them down. And so right from a very early age, I wanted, and part of kind of desperate to get out at 16, left school at 16, and just wanted to get a job. wanted to earn some money and wanted to be independent. And yeah, I think that's kind of a sort of a hustle sort of factor that's instilled within you from a very early age. And then I guess the other thing, I never realized that I was going to be as fortunate as I've been, because, if successful people say that they haven't been very, very lucky in life, they're just bullshitting you, basically, because you have an awful lot of luck. And, it's about how do you identify when that luck is happening to you, and also having brilliant people around you that help you crystallize that luck into something that is valuable, right? And so, what we tend to see is, if you drive somewhere, you rarely remember on your journey the green lights, right? But you do remember the red lights because they make you later. So you have this perception of kind of focusing on the negatives, right? And what we should be doing is saying, well, that we are more than likely going to see X number of red lights as a percentage in all the lights we see in this journey. So if you see a disproportionate number of greens, we should be delighted. We shouldn't do that. That's the norm, right? So it's taking advantage of those upsides to normal, rather than focusing on the negatives of life, saying, these, oh my God, this is yet another thing in my, another problem I've encountered. And, problems are like, challenges that you see, once you're over them, they are simply a barrier between you and your competition. So you should welcome those issues, and you should welcome your ability to overcome them. And, that they are the differentiators between you and your competition.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it's often said that the definition of a successful entrepreneur is someone who can solve the problems the fastest. And I certainly think, even in the time that I've been working in the last few years in the startup sector, that is a clear differentiator from the really successful entrepreneurs, that they never see the stop sign, right? There's always, okay, that's an issue, but that's an issue to be solved. And it's having that drive, and then also, I guess, the lateral thinking to do that.
One of the differences between kind of the way entrepreneurialism is viewed in the US versus the UK is that, if you have someone in the UK that sort of starts up a business and he has to liquidate it because he's run out of cash, right? Then investors go, well, you can't look at him because, he's run out of cash. He's at higher risk. Whereas in the US, they go, great, that's de-risked that person for me, because they've just experienced one of the factors that are more than likely, one of the major factors that we experience in setting up a business. So he'll know not to do that again. So actually, I want to invest in this person because they've de-risked it for me by learning that. And if we think about, sort of in our house with our kids, we don't use the word failure and we don't use mistake. We just say success and learning, because if you treat everything else as a learning, element, then, you'll just hone in on what works. And that's life, right? It's about learning from the moment you're born. You have to learn how to eat, walk, talk, everything. And each time if you set up a business, you've got to learn it. So.
Yeah, and then I guess you touched on there that that you were very fortunate and you had some elements of luck. I dare say there were some also other elements that were instructive or constructive in this, in that you clearly have the business acumen and the drive. But what is your what do you think is your key differentiator, or the thing that you have you would say that you have done during your business career that allows you to I guess differentiate yourself from your competition?
So I guess there's kind of three things that I think about when I try and sort of package why I am where I am in life, right? So one of them is resilience. So again, I guess, being petrol bombed 4 times and shot at 13 times in Africa as a kid probably helped to get some resilience in your life. But as only one got me in the leg.
Wow.
But so the resilience is extremely important. Again, it's like this ability to get up one more time than you get knocked down, right? This is this is the most important tool and the most important power that we have as human beings. You know, Darwin didn't say the fastest and the, you know, or the strongest. None of those survive. The most adaptable survive. And part of adaptation, right, is our ability to find out what doesn't work and find out therefore what does. So the first thing is resilience. Become the most resilient person, being that you can possibly be. And then the second thing is engaging with people in a constructive way. So, you know, I do lots and lots of, you know, well, pre-COVID, lots and lots of sort of talking or you know, roundtables or just cocktails, events, or all these different things, because you meet people. And the amount of times, you know, I've said to them, oh God, I've got another one of these cocktail events tonight. And she goes, well, just don't go. And you say, well, yeah, but you've got to go, because, you know, I know just this year, I floated a company for a US friend of mine who lives in California. So I'm his senior non-exec on a UK listed company. He phoned me up out of the blue after 18 years, right? And we'd worked together 18 years ago. And he said, look, I need someone to help me list this company on the UK exchange. Can you help me do it? Now, you know, these circles of relationships that you build, you don't know when they're going to be beneficial. And you shouldn't, you know, it's almost like you shouldn't be focused on making something happen with that relationship now. You should say, build a relationship of trust, right? And build it up over time. And if you constantly do this, then you're constantly going to have things happen to you. It's like, you know, when I started investing in 2015, I said, okay, if I build up a portfolio of businesses with a 5-year exit plan, then for the first 5 years, I'm going to earn nothing. But then after then, as long as I continue to add new ones every month, then I'm going to have exits every month, right? Yeah. Because, you know, you've gone through that cycle. And if you continue to build up this portfolio of relationships, then eventually they're going to start to come to fruition, if you like. You want to say it that way. So constantly building relationships, engaging with people, and associate yourself with successful, nice people. You know, if you associate yourself or you surround yourself with people that are always, you know, yes, but the problem with that is, or yes, you know, this constant kind of, hey, let's do this. No, you know, I'll give you 10 reasons why not. You know, those people will give you as much negativity as positive people can give you positivity. So surround yourself with positive people and things happen. And then I guess the third thing is to have no fear, right? And we've spoken about this, I think, on the last event. And I talk about it in my first book, Forget Strategy, Get Results, which is that, you know, fear is the most illogical emotion we have, right? Because we never fear the past. We never actually fear the present. What we really fear is the future. Now, fearing the future has a couple of fundamental issues with it, because first of all, we always overestimate the negativity of anything. Okay, so you know, if we're going into a meeting, oh, it's going to go badly. Oh, how's this interview going to go? Oh, and we're wasting energy, we're wasting emotion over something that hasn't even happened yet. It's like paying interest on a debt you haven't drawn, right? And yet, you know, if we could use that time to improve our chances. So in other words, what can we research that would improve our chances in that interview? Then do it. Right? And don't worry about it. But if there's nothing you can do to improve your chances, then don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do, right? So either way, you know, the worry is, this fear stroke worry is a completely wasted emotion. And so take fear out of it. And I'm sure most of your members are young enough that they are relatively sort of early in their cycle of responsibilities. And what I mean by that is, as you get older, you get family, you know, you get dependents, you get liabilities, and your propensity to take risk drops rapidly because you can't afford to get it wrong. So the fear level rises, the fear of failure rises, right? Simply by getting older. So when you're younger, right? And I'm sure a lot of people say, oh, I'm old. No, you're not. I'm really old. I use good cream. I'm really 96. But so what you do is you take the risks and you play the no fear game earlier in your career, because you can. Okay. And I promise you, if you are fearless, you will have less reason to be fearful.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And that, talking of fearlessness, that probably is a good time to bring out some of your other exploits outside of the business world. So we touched on fearlessness and determination. Some other people might actually call it craziness or stupidity, so you did 40 marathons in 40 days. Let's talk about that. And then I want to hear about your trip to Antarctica as well. What drives you to do these things?
Well, look, I feel quite embarrassed about how fortunate I've been in life, considering where I started and how many incredibly skilled and, talented people there are out there. Why is it that I have been so lucky? I feel quite embarrassed to myself about that good fortune, right? And so, I spend a lot of my time now trying to give something back to people that, who knows how many amazing kids out there could be that, who could find a cure for COVID, who could find a cure for anything, if only they were born in a different place, or if only they had half an opportunity to untap that talent. And we'll never know very, very often, right? So what I try to do is, I've got my own foundation called Tobin Foundation, very creative name, which funds projects which are for the education, empowerment, and welfare of children around the world. And so I think that first and foremost, education is so important, just as a leveler, and it's also an ignorance killer. So what I mean by ignorance is the belief systems that can be instilled into children early can be broken by education. If people remain uneducated, they are open to ignorant beliefs, if that makes sense, because they don't know any different. And so I think it's very important for the good of the world to have generations coming through that have access to knowledge and wisdom earlier, and that will benefit all of us. And then secondly, I think that, just because someone's fallen on the wrong side of the tracks, they should still have these opportunities. So out of that sort of that guilt feeling, I always try to push myself a little bit further each time I do a fundraise. And I've been fundraising for a number of charities now for sort of over a decade. And each time I fundraise, my donor pool, if you like, starts to get a bit blasé about what I do. So, I slept on the streets every year for homeless children, and I do all sorts of different things. But then I said, well, I need to do something special for the Prince's Trust, as it was their 40th anniversary. And so I came up with this idea of 40 marathons in 40 consecutive days. So a proper 42.2 kilometer marathon every morning. And so I chose that in 2017. I started in summer, and I would do it at 3:30 in the morning. So from 3:30 to 8:30 every morning, I would run 42 kilometers around London. People could follow me on a periscope camera that I carried around my neck, so you could log in at any time and see where I was. And I'd finish at a corporate, for example, Atos or Dell or wherever, that morning, and I'd do a keynote speech to everyone coming in that morning at 9 o'clock. So they would sponsor me to do the keynote speech, but I'd just finished the marathon of that day, and then I'd give them my day job. So if anyone says they don't have time to go to the gym in the morning, don't believe them, right? So this is every morning, 3:30 to 8:30, 9 o'clock keynote speech, and then my day job. So yeah, it was brutal, but it wasn't as brutal as crossing the South Pole.
Yes, tell me that. So this happened since I guess last time you were on here. So please do tell us a bit more about this trip then.
I left on New Year's Eve, which completely upset my wife as well, because she'd had a big New Year's party planned, and we established that the day that we had to get down to Punta Arenas was for New Year's Eve, because you can only cross the Magellan Straits in certain times and in certain weather. So unfortunately, we had to cancel our New Year's Eve party and fly down. I must admit, I was massively underwhelmed on BA, crossing the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, And basically I was expecting some party hats or something to come around the plane. And all it was the captain said, "Happy New Year." And that was great. So
well, welcome to 2020. Little did you know that would probably be one of the highlights of the year.
Especially for British Airways. But anyway, so yeah, managed to get, it takes several days to get to the South Pole. And there are a number of things that I certainly didn't know before this challenge. First of all, with the exception of a little bit of a peninsula where most of the penguins live, virtually all of the continent of Antarctica, which is as big as North America as a continent, is at 10,000 feet, and that's 3,000 meters height. It's very, very high. So when you're dragging a 200-kilo sledge across terrain that is very, very challenging, that nobody's ever walked on ever since the beginning of man, it's incredibly tiring, right? And you've got altitude sickness and everything else. I mean, we had people, the first day we could barely do a mile, and we had nearly 200 miles to cover. So it was just awful, and the most brutal thing I've ever done in my life. And minus 40 degrees, 24 hours daylight. I mean, one of the challenges that I, again, didn't fully appreciate was, you stock up with all this sort of astronaut food, which is dehydrated because it's very light. And then every day you have to boil up snow for 2 hours to get it warm. It's that cold, 2-hour boiling snow, and you just about get lukewarm water. And then you mix it up with this dehydrated food. And when you go to the toilet in the morning, you're not allowed to leave anything on the South Pole. So there's no dogs, there's no nothing. And when you do a poo outside, you have to bag it and put it back in your sledge.
So you have to carry it back with you.
So your sledge actually gets heavier because you're converting dehydrated food into rehydrated poo. And literally it gets heavier as you go. But it was just, the most brutal thing I've ever experienced.
Okay.
Hypothermia, frostbite in every extremity, just awful. But
wow. Okay, when you say that, having run the 40 marathons in 40 days, which seemed like a little bit of a walk in the park in comparison to this.
We raised, as a team, we raised nearly $1 million.
Wow, amazing. Congratulations.
And personally, I raised about $250,000.
Okay, whoa, an amazing total. So I guess maybe it will be a bath of beans this year, or something.
Another one on the cards, but I've got to get it through my my risk assessment manager, which is my wife, and it's not quite passed yet, so I can't.
Okay. Yeah, the mind boggles if you can't get this one past what you've got on the cards. So one of the other things we touched upon previously, and will be of interest to our founders on this Zoom. You spoke about the investments that you're making and Tobin Ventures. So it would be great if you could tell us a little bit more about that, and also what it is that you look for in a founder.
So I look for people with the right attitude. I look for the same when I employ people. I'd rather have people with the right attitude without the skill set than people with a skill set with the wrong attitude. Because I can teach a skill set, I can have someone else teach a skill set, but teaching an attitude is incredibly difficult. So, having a can-do person, having someone, again, it's a little bit like I said earlier on, surround yourself with people that you want to aspire to, or you want to aspire to be like. So, having people that say, yeah, I'll give that a shot, or yes, I think I can make that happen, is infinitely more valuable to me than having someone that says, the problem with that is, every time you come up with that, oh, well, maybe we can do it. Yeah, but the problem is, it's so people that can give me a positive attitude, even if they don't know how to deliver it, they'll just go like, okay, we've got some challenges here, but let me think about this. Let me see if we can do that, or we need this person, or we need that much money, but we can do it. Right? And we can put Land Rovers on Mars. Some of these businesses, even if they're techie, they can't be that difficult. The core fundamentals of business are all the same, right? Whether you sell sweets or whether you sell microchips, the core fundamentals, cash flow, P&L, profitability, all those things, they're all the same. So I think, I think it's really important to have people with the right attitude, for sure.
So talking about attitude and the sort of looking at the tech sector, and I think we touched a little bit on this previously. I guess the topic of the year, maybe even the decade, is the pandemic and what effects this is having on the way we do business and how we manage business and life. Because I know for a lot of people now, the business working day has become intrinsically linked with your children or families, sometimes in the same house or even in the same room. So what are your thoughts on how business has changed or will change, and tell us a little bit more about how you think. Yeah.
I think it's changed for the better, quite frankly. I mean, I've always worked from home, so I'm very happy with that. And in fact, before the Zoom call, I was showing the team my new desk, which is a very cool little desk that
Okay, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I think since you brought it up, can you actually show people this desk?
Well, no, come on, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's a cool little desk. But anyway, so I'm a great believer in. I think we spoke about at the last event. I don't think we should have work and private life, because that's an outdated concept. It's certainly for entrepreneurs. I think trying to have a balance will result in you failing at one or the other, and therefore the most optimum way to be successful as a human being, which includes business and personal, is to find the way to integrate them. And that's what I talk about in the second book, Live, Love, Work, Prosper, which is how, if you try to stop, if you say, okay, in this time I'm working, and in this time I'm not working, right? Undoubtedly, as entrepreneurs, there's going to be stuff happening that demands your attention in that period of time where you've designated non-working, and you'll end up compromising that promise to yourself and upsetting the people you're with because you've told them that that's the way it's going to be. But if you can work to an integrated environment, right, then you become on the same path as your partner, and you're both looking outward, and you're saying, these are the things we have to do to have everything we want going forward. And that's success in business and success in life. So I think it's very important to kind of merge work and life together. And I think, not to integrate, not to balance, not to try and balance them, to integrate them.
Yeah. And certainly, I previously worked in Stockholm for a while, and the work-life balance in Sweden is so different to the UK approach. In the summer, everyone has to take a full month off. So it's either July or August. You have to choose one. And paternity is 6 months for guys and 12 months for women, but you can trade it, so we can swap it over. And it doesn't seem to have done them any harm. Like, for their size, they've got Ericsson, Nokia, IKEA, a fair few sort of unicorns that have come out of there, despite the sort of very balanced work life.
Well, I mean, there's always the exceptions, but I think if you go back into the early days of those three companies, for example, and Nokia goes back a very, very long way, started making Wellington boots, actually, before it went on to making paper, and then TVs before it became a phone company and then a software company. But the original teams, you would imagine, spent more than a proportionate amount of their time as entrepreneurial people, working rather than in a balanced environment. And I think that's where we're talking about the real issue comes in here, where you've got entrepreneurs that need to put disproportionate amounts of time in their businesses to make them successful. And if you try then to make a balance, something's going to give, right? And I think that the important thing is to learn how to get this kind of 45-degree angle, right? So imagine the two sports you love are weightlifting and marathon running. And your aspiration is to win a gold medal. Well, you know, body shape suggests that if you're a gold medal weightlifter, you're probably not going to run a good marathon. And if you're a gold medal marathon runner, you're probably not going to be able to lift much weight. But if you like both of those disciplines and you want to carry on doing them, you know, you could do a decathlon, which involves middle distance running and involves, you know, some weight things like shot put and everything else. And you can win a gold medal at decathlon whilst enjoying both the sports you love. Okay, so there's this 45-degree angle that we can find between work and life that will allow us to achieve everything without compromising the other one. I think that's the important thing. And COVID has shown us that, right? Because, you know, the stats are suggesting that everyone, you know, largely is more productive at home than they were in the office. And, you know, I fear for places like WeWork and Regus, or, you know, all these sort of serviced offices, because, you know, apart from the fact that most people are not even going into their normal offices, so the, you know, office space is going to be incredibly cheap, you know, in major cities right now. You know, and a lot of people I know are taking out, you know, £1,800, you know, memberships at the Arts Club or Annabelle's or you know, Groucho's or whatever, because they can work there cheaper than at WeWork, and it's a much more sort of amicable, conducive environment. So the entire kind of office space has been disrupted beyond recognition, thankfully, right? Because, you know, just because we're at work doesn't mean to say we need to work, right? Because if you want to do your online banking at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you happen to be sitting in the office, you know, there are some companies out there that still don't let you do it. They don't let you use Facebook. It's ridiculous, right? If I don't even use Facebook, but anyway, if you wanted to. But the point is, if you're at home, they expect you to work. But if you're in the office, they expect you not to do your personal stuff. And I just can't see the logic in this. I think when you're working, you don't need to be at work, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, well, I think we are at a good junction where we can turn to the audience. I've got a few questions that have been flying in. Let's see what we have. Okay. Let's try this. I haven't tried this before, but this might make it a little bit more interactive. Nicholas Pantelli, how would you like to ask your question? Do you have your video there? I think we have to probably unmute him.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, well, thank you very much for obviously both taking the time to set this up and engage with all of us. It's greatly appreciative. My question was right at the top of the chat, so I'm not going to scroll because I'll waste everyone's time, but it was broadly around, was there ever a scenario looking back that was a major hurdle for you, but you know, fast forward into where you are now has become probably one of your strongest attributes, where there was almost like that aha moment, this had to happen for this to happen much later on?
Well, I'll give you one business example and one personal example. So back in the day at Telecity, these are data centers, right? And you know, there's not a lot you can do in terms of cost cutting when you've built a data center, because it's a £50 million to build it, and then it runs a 250 grand a month cost just to exist. And I was desperate to shut costs down when I realized that this business was about to go bankrupt, and I hadn't done my due diligence properly, and here I was. And I flew out to Prague to open up the Czech data center that we built, and I'd opened it with the British ambassador to the Czech Republic, and it was all dancing and cutting the ribbon and all this sort of stuff, and all I could see was, oh my God, this is just more money down the toilet, and I couldn't, there's nothing I could do about it, but I was feeling very desperate about it at that time. And as I got back on the plane, fly back, it was a very bumpy takeoff, and it was getting very stormy, and got back to London and started reading reports, and there was the massive floods This was back in 2002, 2002. And then the Danube burst its banks, and our data center completely flooded. And so I jumped straight back on a plane, flew out and went to see the insurer. And I said, look, you know, I'm insured for £50 million, right? Give me 8 million today and I'm out of here. And he said to me, you know, that sounds like a great deal. I said, but it's got to be today, because, you know, that will keep us alive for another 4 or 5 months. And that allowed me to find new investors. And if you look at that as a negative, that the entire building had just, you know, 50 million down the toilet was a disaster. Yet, you know, turning it, looking for the upside, turning it into something that kept the business alive long enough for us to get new investors. If it hadn't have rained, right, I wouldn't be sitting here as I am today, right? And I think on a personal basis, you know, I wasn't a very good father or husband, actually, to my first wife, and I was pretty crappy, and I was looking for relationships all over the place and things like that, probably as a factor of the fact that I didn't feel loved as a kid, I presume. Well, there's all sorts of excuses you can make, but it was just pretty bad. But the relationship I have with my wife now, she benefits from all my experience, right? So, you know, you know, I know now how to be good, if you know what I mean, how to be a good husband and a good father, and that is reaping its benefits in a personal relationship. So, I think when, you know, if you accept you know, difficult things in your life as a process to improvement, and it's difficult to do that, but if you can, then you take advantage of the learning of those things, and usually to everyone's benefit.
Thank you. I really appreciate the candidness of your answer and your honesty in both of those.
Yeah, great stuff. And thank you for the question, Nicholas. Okay, let's move to someone else. So, okay, this one that applied to a few startups. So, do we have Munir? Maybe we can unmute you. There we go. Oh, sorry, I just muted you. Sorry, let's try. I think perfect. Hey, Munir. So you had a question as well.
Yeah, hi, Michael. Great conversation. 2 highlights for me is overestimating negativity and teaching attitude for me personally. So one of the questions is, when you joined Telecity, you mentioned there was no revenue. How did you manage to get those first early clients? And what would be your suggestions for the entrepreneurs who are in the similar situation?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you know, it's that moment, you know, between having a brilliant idea and turning it into monetizing it, right? And there's a lot of this. So a lot of it depends on the business type and the product type and all those things. But on the first point, I mean, we as data center capacity, no one would come to the data center because there was no connectivity in the data center, and no connectivity would come because there was no customers to connect to it. So it was a vicious circle. And you can see those vicious circles in startups all over the place in different forms. So somehow you've got to break the vicious circle. So if you're saying, in my company, I can't sell something because I don't have a reference customer, right? And I can't get a reference customer because I can't sell something, you know, the same sort of. So what you've got to do is break that somehow. And it may be even down to, right, I'm going to give this away. I'm going to come to somebody that I can see would be a great reference. And I'm going to call it marketing investment, if you like, but my cost of this is going to be my marketing spend. And I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to make it a fantastic reference site. So you break that vicious circle and then turn it into a virtuous one. And I guess, you know, you can do that in a number of ways, but I think when people think about, you know, marketing generally as an early business, there is nothing better than having a customer say great things about you. And so, you know, you can put your name in every magazine and you know, your brand on the TV and everything else. Yes, it will all help, right? But a customer saying, this is awesome, makes other people sit up and take notice, especially other customers that look like him in the same sector, because they'll go like, what am I missing here? You know, what am I now going to be at a disadvantage of because my competitors have something that I don't know about? So there's ways that you can use that. And when you have that customer in that vertical, then you can attack all the other people that look like him and say, did you know that your competitor is using this stuff? Why aren't you even thinking about it? And suddenly you can turn that into a virtuous circle. So I think it's finding a way that you can get that first customer. It even works in, when people have said to me, how do I become a non-exec? So I'm a non-exec of probably 15 different companies at the moment, right? And they say, well, how did you get your first one? Well, the first one I did was a charity non-exec, and I did it for free. And then I did a local, I was chairman of my parish council. And you start to build up that kind of, referenceability when you think that there's no value. Well, the value is you're building up that reputation, right? And then you can go out to people and say, look, I'm going to charge you for this. And by the way, I've been 3 years on that and 2 years doing that, and I'm adding value.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And thanks for the question. Okay, who do we have next? Heather. Is Heather here? Let's unmute Heather. You've got an interesting question on one of Michael's comments earlier.
Yeah, hi Mike.
Hi Heather. I must admit, first of all, before you ask the question, I know Heather very well. So I may, if she asks any sort of sensitive questions,
okay. It's a stitch up. Okay, right. Very good.
It's not a stitch up. It's not a setup. Tell me about your next book, Mike. No. So I just wanted to ask, do you think you can get leopards to change their spots? So we've all come across those people that don't have that kind of hunger and drive that you've spoken of. And often we can work around them, but sometimes, they're part of our journey. And do you think you can get somebody to find that hunger and drive within themselves if they're just one of those competent, expert, but slow, patient people?
Yeah. And just to maybe add a little bit onto that, and if the answer is yes, you think, how do you do it?
The first part of the answer would have been easy. So look, I think, so what's important to know, right, is no one comes into the office every day going, I want to do a really bad job today. How can I mess up this company, right? How can I just be like the biggest pain in the eye? Generally, right, people want to try and do a good job. They want to feel sort of that they've achieved something or that they're contributing something, and they want to feel that they're also rewarded and recognized. So those are the kind of three elements, right? Now, as you say, you can have good people that are really very competent, but might have the wrong attitude, right? Now, attitude, if someone just isn't fast or isn't pulling their weight, then there's motivational techniques in there. There's like, you can then say, well, if you don't get 6 widgets done instead of 4, I'm not going to pay you. So converting them onto some sort of bonus scheme or something like that. If they're not incentivized by cash, that's a much more difficult thing to obtain, but people are still motivated. There's always something that motivates people. I remember a chap once, which he was one of my construction team in data centers, and a lot of them were going off, and this was way back in the day when they were building Terminal 5 at Heathrow. So all my construction specialists were leaving because they were paying a fortune to get these guys over to build Terminal 5, right? And it was the hottest thing. And this one guy says, look, I'm not valuing money as much, but I have, he said, I'm divorced and I have certain days that I can see my son. And what I would like is as I've got my 3 weeks holiday or whatever it is a year, but if I could take Fridays off occasionally to have a long weekend with my son, that would be more valuable than any money you could give me, because no one else wants to give me that, right? So I was able then to secure somebody's loyalty, and he worked very hard after that because he knew that I was offering something that someone else might give more money, but they still wouldn't give him what was important, which was a day off on Fridays when he had his son. So finding the buttons for people that will just turn up the dial on their motivation generally improves the attitude. And the attitude is what we when we look at someone and say the things like, a bit of sort of maybe a little bit deadwoody, a little bit sort of slow or slightly negative. It's just finding that button with that individual. And you need to, you can have your general terms and conditions for employees, but you need to have an individual approach to those individuals and find out what's special about their button. And they become the most loyal, the most interested employees if you can get that button right. And if you can't, get rid of them.
Okay, which I think that actually leads us on to another question. I can't remember, I can't see it now, but someone was asking whether you, oh yes, so Mark Stringer, do you agree with the mantra of hire slow, fire fast when you're scaling? Yeah.
I think I do, actually. I think I do. On the basis that generally, I think surrounding yourself with the best possible people you can afford in any of the disciplines, and imparting a vision to them and letting them run completely independently with that vision and not try and micromanage them, be a leader rather than a manager. I think that takes time to find that best person that fits with the attitude and all those things. So I would take longer to find them. And invariably, every time I've come to the conclusion, and remember, there's a difference between not coming to the conclusion over a period of time, or that you want to get, that someone isn't right, or coming to the conclusion and not doing something about it. I think there's a difference between those two things, right? So if you're going through the process of saying, this person isn't clicking, and that we're going to try these different things, and we're going to try and find that button, and we're going to try and motivate, and we're going to maybe try them in a different role, try them with a different team, all those things, right? I'm willing to spend time to find what makes people happy in a work environment. But once you've established that nothing else could be done, then get rid of them as quick as you can, because they are a negative pull. Just like I mentioned earlier on a personal basis, surround yourself with people you aspire to be like. Surround yourself with success. Anyone that isn't the type of person that you want to be, or anyone that isn't exhibiting the type of success that you aspire to, take them out of the equation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Another speaker that we had on previously described them as black holes. He said, they said that's what he called them. People in the office, they took up space, but rather than sort of growing or giving out, they just sucked energy out of the people who were around them, which I thought was quite a descriptive way.
And very often they tend to be people that have been in the company for a very long time. So either they've been disillusioned over time, or they've been bypassed or overlooked. So some of them you can salvage. Yeah. That's a word, salvage, rescue perhaps. Yeah. And you can say, look, you know, you are not overlooked. You are recognized, and you can turn these people around sometimes. But what you've got to decide is that once you've established that you do not believe that's possible, then you've just got to take them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You find everyone else also will be lifted by that action.
Yeah. Leon, do we have Leon there? He's got a question. If you want to unmute Leon.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Hi, Michael. I just have one question. So based do you practice any mindfulness techniques, you know, to stay concentrated or calm? You know, like how do you manage so many projects at once, you know?
Well, again, having great people around me helps, but I for over 10 years, over 13 years, my management team at Telecity, I had a yogi flown in from Mumbai twice a year, and he would sit us down and help us meditate and effectively self-hypnotize. And again, the kind of things that we get into in terms of our daily rushed lives, when you're having a debate with someone, and this could happen at home with your partner, with your kids, at the office, you know, you can almost invariably see the triggers in a conversation that are leading up to a boiling point, right, before it happens. And just try to observe that next time you're in a scenario where you might be having a little bit of a conflict. You will feel yourself the conversation rises gently, you know, the volume goes up a little bit, you know, the responses are trying to get more kind of sarky and, you know, all these sorts of things. And actually, if you were looking in on that conversation, you'd very often say, guys, don't be so childish. Don't be so ridiculous. You stop it. Just talk like normal human beings and fix the problem, right? And we're always very good from a third party giving advice like that. But when it comes to ourselves, we lose that third party dynamic. And so allowing yourself to self-hypnotize, what it does is it allows you to come out of your body, metaphorically, and look at a scenario from a third party point of view, right? And this then will allow you to look at the logic or illogic of what's happening in front of you and adjust it. And then he can give you triggers which basically say, okay, every time I get animated, I find that I start jiggling my leg or something, or my knee starts vibrating or something like that. And then the moment you get that trigger is the moment you already sort of press turn the valve on so that you calm down. And this is, again, same like traffic lights when you're driving down the road, right? So when you hit a red light, instead of it being, oh no, I've hit another red light, I'm getting later, the red light is a trigger to go, okay, we're still on the road, we're still going. And so the red light itself is a trigger, right? So I don't know if we'd call that mindfulness or not, but certainly having input to allow you to think about things which are not your immediate agenda is very, very helpful. And it's helpful on a team basis as well as an individual basis. So the other thing he taught us was breathing. You know, if you can manage your breathing, calmness just floods the room. And if you find people that are, you know, have angst in the office, ask them to breathe and they'll laugh at you. But if you can get it as a policy, just keep breathing. Things actually calm down quite quickly. Yeah, so you know, a lot of that sort of stuff I do practice. And there's a lovely chap called Jagdish Parikh, P-A-R-I-K-H, who I say is a good dear friend of mine, and probably, again, I wouldn't be sane without him, having had him as a friend for the last 15, 20 years.
Okay, very good. And certainly, you know, having that strategic look and taking that time out, I think that is something that's come up time and time again with the successful entrepreneurs that we've had on here. It's definitely a theme. Okay, so we've got probably we're nearing towards the end of our questions, so we'll take a couple more. So Liliana, do we have Liliana here with us still? Let's have a look. You had a question on capital raising.
Yes, I am here.
Yeah.
Hi, well, thank you for inviting me. A pleasure to be here and meeting other fellow entrepreneurs. My question on capital raising is, so capital raising for entrepreneurs tends to be a challenge, and I suppose it's more a challenge at the beginning and less of a challenge as you do it again and again and again. So based on your experience, what do you think was the strategy that worked the best, and which one worked the least, unless perhaps you've always been successful at, you know, raising capital and you are just natural at it?
Well, I'm just, again, lucky rather than natural, I would say. There's never been more money around than now. Okay, there is a private equity for various reasons. So private equity has become a flooded market. You've got pension funds moving down into the traditional private equity space, especially in the infrastructure environment. Then private equity pushes down onto sort of venture capitalists, and venture capitalists pushing down onto seed. And, you know, all of this is a wall of money, which is costing them basically nothing with the current interest rates. So there is more money out there than ever before. The expectations of return, I think, i.e. greed, right, is something that has gone up as well. Yet no one is taking the, so human beings are driven by two things, right? Greed or fear, quite simply. Right. And so people want to make money, but they don't want to risk it. Okay, so those are the two kind of dichotomies of fundraising. So you know, and obviously there's more risk down at the seed level. And what I would say, by the way, is invariably when I talk to entrepreneurs, I encourage them to try not to raise money by giving away equity if you can possibly help it. Because if you really believe in your business and you give away 50% for £1 million, right, and suddenly your business is worth 100 million, look what you've done to it, right? And by the way, probably to get it to 100 million, you've probably needed another round and another round and another round and another round. And in that period, you haven't been able to put any more money in. So that 50% shareholder now is probably an 80% shareholder, right? So if you can at all help it, and I was a judge at a thing pre-COVID. There was an entrepreneurs thing for Ernst & Young, and there were 5 people in my category of judging, and there was a lot of older gentlemen, I would say, that were co-judges of mine, and 4 of the 5 of these guys had 0 debt in their businesses, all great businesses, 0 debt in their businesses, and had found themselves diluted down to sort of 25-30% ownership. One guy had significant debt in the business, also a great business, also done very well, but still owned 100% of his business. And all of my co-judges said that wasn't a good thing because he was heavily levered. And I see it another way. I see it as with the cost of debt today, right? If you believe in your business and you believe it's going to grow, right, why would you give it away? If you can borrow money rather than get equity funding, then why would you give it away? Now, if you're struggling, you know, if you have a medium-term play in your mind, if you say, I only want this for 3 years, and actually the way to do it is a roll-up strategy, and I want to buy this, this, and this, you can cut a deal with some private equity to say, this is the plan. And as long as I stick to, you know, if I increase the size of the company by 4-fold, and I keep 50% of the business, then I'm actually more valuable than I was at the beginning. So, you know, my dilution is...
Just to interrupt there. So obviously, like if someone tells me, I'm going to give you a 10-year debt, whatever rate, I will say, I take that debt right now. The thing is, when you're a technology company at the seed level, banks don't offer debt to them. But if I find an entrepreneur that tells me, I'm going to give you debt for a 10-year term and you'll pay them, I said, I'll take that debt right now, because for companies that are growing at the beginning in technology, you need the money at the beginning for 1-2 years, and then you just balloon and you can repay the money right away. So then, yeah, the problem is that for technology companies, you don't have loans or debt, or, you know, it's just, yeah. Unless you're in real estate, correct, or other businesses, that is, yeah.
Banks are notorious for trying to sell you umbrellas only when the sun is shining, right? So, you know, you'll never get an umbrella from a bank when it's raining. So the question is, one of the things that I tell businesses, again, not right at the beginning, is also even more difficult. But let's say you're just getting along, right, and you're covering your kind of first years. That's the moment to start talking to banks. And the amount of banks that we go and talk to, you know, we sort of say to them, hi, and they go, oh, you're negative EBITDA, you know, negative cash flow, I can't lend to you. Fine, I don't want any money. I'm just going to tell you about my business, and I'll see you in 6 months. And this is what we're going to do, and I'd see you in 6 months. And then 6 months later, oh, look, we've done what I said we were going to do, a little bit more, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. I still don't want any more money. But if you do this early enough over a sustained period, then you actually get the banks coming to you. Again, remember, it's greed or fear, right? So when in the early days, if you're coming to them saying, I'm going to run out of money unless I get a loan, then they're never going to give it to you. Because they go, how did you get in this position in the first place? Oh, all this sort of stuff. But if you've built a relationship with them and they trust you because they've now heard from you 3 times that you said you were going to do this, you did it, and some, and you sold them again, then they're going to go, hang on a minute, now my greed is kicking in. Maybe I want a slice of this. Right? So you've got to get them over that hurdle, right? And I think you're absolutely right. We have a terrible situation in this, you know, especially in the UK, where people are, to entrepreneurs in particular, adverse to taking risk. And the seed guys are interesting because they get EIS relief generally. So there's a protection there for them. So they're more willing to spend money because they've got a tax advantage on the back of it, right? And so going to seed money, you know, you can usually say, look, you know, give me a decent valuation on this business, and that helps me not get diluted as we grow, right? And then that is, you know, you can work with those. But the moment you get beyond seed into VC, VCs become greedy again, because VCs can't take advantage of EIS. So there's no magic formula, you know, but it's having somebody, if you've got a business, having somebody like a wise old owl on your board, or as a chairman or something, should help you navigate through fundraising, because they will have done things before. They will have people that they can say, you made a lot of money out of me before. Trust me, I'm a doctor. You know, you can make money out of this. And it's that relationship you're effectively channeling into, right? But you've got to have someone that can kind of vouch for you in a way.
Cool. Thank you so much for well, getting to meet you here, and yeah, your comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've gone a good 15, 20 minutes now over time. So I'm going to call it a day on the questions, but lots more flooding in as well. I have to say, this is probably this is the first talk where we have the audience has not dropped off, and we've actually grown when we've got past. Normally, after the half-an-hour marker, we normally lose a few people as they trail off to do various things. But I think a testament to what you've been saying, which has been frankly riveting and really insightful. So thank you for that. It's really been really great. Now, I'm just going to, before we move and get some final words from you, let me just share my screen once more. So, okay, can you see my presentation?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so before we head off, I thought I know that you have recently released a new book, Michael. So why don't you give us a few words on that?
I did, and had you not put that up, I could have shown you the real one here.
Oh, there we go. Right. Okay.
But this is, if anyone's got half an interest in data centers, this is the true story of the data center industry journey over the last 20 odd years. But actually, it's a riveting read. It came out yesterday, and it's got murder, blackmail, intrigue, all sorts of fun and games in it, and it's all true stories. So yeah, it's a bit more fun. So even if you don't like data centers, you'll enjoy the scandal and everything else in there. So
okay, so yeah, well, I've ordered my copy, so yeah, I look forward to reading about that. So I guess you know, that's probably the end of our questions session. But just over to you to say thank you, and any last words of encouragement for our budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, the concept of this getting over the final hurdle each time and trying again, I can't emphasize how important that is, because you know the quotes, you know, around us throughout our lives of people like Disney trying 100 times before they could make, you know, before they got their first contract for a film, or the Beatles being turned down God knows how many times before they got their first record label. So all of these things, you know, just show that the real winners are the resilient efforts, right? The ones that keep falling down and keep getting up. And I'll just tell you one tiny short story, which was when I got my apprenticeship at 16, and I was sitting in Bond Street Tube Station on the bench there. And this is long time ago, way before internet or email or anything like that. And I was sitting there with this letter from the company in my hands, and I was so nervous to open it. I finally had the courage to open this letter and take out the whether I'd got my apprenticeship or not. And it had said, yes, you know, congratulations, you got an apprenticeship with Rockwell Automation, it was. And there was an old man sitting next to me, I'm sure passed long ago, because he was very old then, and that was a very long time ago. and he couldn't probably even read what it said, couldn't have read what it said on the letter, but he could see the smile in my face. And he turned to me and he said, "Son," he said, "always go the extra mile because there's less traffic there." Right? And that stayed with me for a very long time. That little extra push, you know, you just never know when that little bit more is the bit that actually succeeds. And I think, you know, Nelson Mandela spoke about the time when he was in prison and they used to break rocks. And he said, you never know how many times you hit a big rock with a small hammer and nothing happens, but you don't know that the next one just breaks the rock. And we don't know when that next one is. The only way we find out is if we go again. Right? And that's the most valuable lesson I can possibly give you in entrepreneurship.
Great, and some inspiring words, very poignant to finish with. So thank you very much, Michael. Our next section will be the networking. I don't know if you have time. I know that you have some other commitments as well, but certainly if you're around, please feel free to join. But thank you very much.
Welcome.
So I'm just going to, this was, for me, a brilliant, I guess, example of how the Entrepreneurs Collective looks to try and give value back to our members. I'm very selfish in a way. The main reason I invite Michael and other speakers to speak is frankly because these are the people I want to listen to. I've got a lot to learn. I've only been an entrepreneur for a couple of years. So I think surrounding myself and bringing people to these events that are inspiring speakers who can really add value are a great way for me to learn and grow. But also for any of you guys and any other members, if you have any suggestions for speakers, please do message or drop them into the chat and we can approach them. We've been very fortunate to get the likes of Michael Tobin and previously other great speakers like Tim Jackson from Tobin Ventures and others who've had accomplished some great things. But what else do we do? So basically our sort of the main hub is I want to help me to succeed and I want to help you to succeed. So essentially what we try and do as a membership group is I try and add things that will help the founders or improve their chances to win. So we get together groups of mentors. So our members have access to some brilliant mentors from different skill sets across London. We also do a monthly pitch competition. I think we had 5 brilliant pitches last month. One of the VCs requested all 5 pitches who was on the judging panel. And certainly, I think there's been quite a lot of follow-up conversations. And certainly, I would say we've had probably over somewhere around about £1 million worth of investment that has come out of our events in the last sort of 6 months. We also do things like deck reviews as well as giving access to credit schemes. So we're an official partner with AWS, so we can give out £10,000 or £25,000 worth of credits for startups, as well as having access to a lot of other credit schemes, all with the aim of trying to help your bank balance and improve your chances to succeed. We have our next pitch event, which is on the 9th of September. It will be with a judging panel, so you are welcome to, if you're a founder or entrepreneur with a business that is looking to fundraise, you can contact us and we can consider you for the pitch. We also have a workshop on the 16th of September. This is by Ritam Gandhi, who is from Studio Graphene, which is a development house and UX UI experts. And he has come up with a brilliant workshop to help increase your chances of success, which is your MVP to your BVP and your best viable product. And that will be on the 16th of September, and we still have a few spaces of that. So any entrepreneurs who are currently looking to build their MVPs or future reiterations, you can join that. In terms of our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to host these events without some of the great sponsors that we have. These are all great companies that I have worked with all of them, and would be happy to work with them. So we have Claim Capital, who do R&D, Studio Graphene, who are brilliant developers. 7 Legal, have over a decade of experience with helping startups. Buzzercots are a top-notch accountancy company specializing in startups and scale-ups. And we also work with Krasner Capital, which is a boutique investment company. They actually don't want, all they want is actually to look for investments. So actually, they like us to send them pitch decks. So if you're looking for fundraising, certainly you can send the pitch decks our way as well. So that's it from us. I will now move on to our networking session. We've gone on a bit longer than others, but we still have quite a few people in the room, so we will kick on with the networking. So this is one of my favorite bits of the evening because I get to meet some new people. So what we do is essentially we will split you into 3 or 4 separate networking rooms where you will be given the opportunity to introduce yourself, introduce your business, and also talk for 3 or 4 minutes about your business. We also ask in this format, we also ask that you, in the spirit of community, you offer to do something or give something to the group. It could be, for instance, I'm a lawyer by trade and a data protection officer. So if you need data protection advice, you'd be very happy to contact me and I can help you, or give you talk you through some free advice. But also to ask for something. So presumably if you're here at the networking event, either you are looking to meet new people, maybe get some advice, whatever it is that you are looking for or have problems with the business. This is a good opportunity for you to raise this to the group, and then people will the group will have a minute or two to respond. For each group, we have nominated people to help run the group. So you will be, for those of you who are new to this format, there will be someone in the room that can help guide you, and you will be allocated at random. So fingers crossed you get one of the good rooms. No, they're all good, I'm sure. It's fine. But this will go on for the next 45 minutes. We will have a hard stop at 8:30. Some of you may just want to dip into the networking or come through, but there will be a hard stop where we'll turn the video off there, though some of you guys may finish earlier. Daniel, you ready to pop people into their Zoom rooms? Okay, so you should get a little notice popping up with a suggested break room. If you accept those, they will send you in.